RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom. Informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI. Food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom for today on Radio Caribbean International. It is Tuesday, April the 16th, 2024, and this is program number 1165 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Calix George Jr. Now, in addition to radio on 101.1 FM, you can also get us at our website. It is rcistlucia.com. That's the URL. You can also download our previous shows on our website. And you also have the option of following us on Facebook Live. Just search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International on Facebook. And of course, please be sure to like and share that link as well with your friends and family. And this is a call-in program. Hopefully we can do some sharing today. And so if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And you can also message in on WhatsApp. And once you have the app, of course, save this number, 724-0008. That's RCI's WhatsApp number. And you can also call in if you want on WhatsApp. Again, that number, 724-0008. Now, some birthday greetings today for April the 16th, going out to Coretta Crooks Charles. Happy birthday to you, Coretta. And we do hope that you're having a wonderful birthday today. And also to Miss Marissa Stevens, happy birthday to you. And we wish you an absolutely fantastic birthday celebration. And two individuals who would have been celebrating their birthdays today. Well, one is actually just recently abdicated Queen of Denmark, Margaret II, as well as another individual who abdicated, and this one is from the papacy, Pope Benedict XVI. He would have been celebrating his birthday today as well. A bit of history for today. In the year 1457 BC, right? That's a pretty long time ago. The famous Battle of Megiddo saw Egyptian forces of Thutmose III defeating a large Canaanite coalition under the king of Kadesh. And this, in fact, was the first battle recorded in history with a reliable account. In the year 1705, Queen Anne of England knights scientist Isaac Newton. And that happened at Trinity College, Cambridge, of course, the father of calculus and modern physics, Sir Isaac Newton. 1746 on this day saw the Jacobite rising. It was in the Battle of Culloden, and that was the last battle on British soil, in fact, where royalist troops under the Duke of Cumberland defeated the Jacobite army of Charles Edward Stuart. 1900, you saw U.S. Post Office issuing its first stamp booklets on this day. 1917 on this day, April the 16th, saw Vladimir Lenin issuing his Radical April theses calling for Soviets to take power during the Russian Revolution. 1943 on this day saw Swiss scientist Dr. Albert Hofmann discovering the psychedelic effects of LSD. 1948, the Organization of European Economic Cooperation was formed in Paris. And on this day in 2003, the Treaty of Accession was signed in Athens, expanding the European Union with the admission of 10 new member states, primarily from the former Soviet bloc. And we now move on to our dish of the day. The Daily Dish is brought to you with the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
1, tells for your room, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tells for your balcony. Come down to Tells Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tells Plus, Tells Plus, Tells Plus. Big tells with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A plus. Need all kind of tells. Come down to Tells Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tells on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Grozile, and Slack Street in Dufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program for today. Of course, we have been for the past couple of days hearing quite a bit about a statement which was a critique, I suppose you could say, of the current leader of the opposition and former Prime Minister, the Honorable Alan Shasney. And that was made, I think, in a call-in to a program hosted by Mr. Richard Frederick, Honorable Richard Frederick, and he, in fact, the call was made by my dad, Sir Calix George Jr. Sir Calix George, sorry. And it delved into, at some point, the whole matter of characterization of the approach and the actions of the Honorable Alan Shasney. Now, that certainly caused a bit of a firestorm amongst members, I suppose, and mouthpieces of the United Workers' Party regarding the statement, to the extent that they were even suggesting that he was referring to all members of the United Workers' Party as house slaves, and also referring to the Mr. Shasney himself as a slave master, or I suppose typifying. Of course, now in the English language, we have all these various terms in terms of what is metaphoric and whatnot. But we have spoken, of course, to the matter of what has been defined as a slave master mentality as well as a house slave mentality. And certainly that has been characterized in very many different ways, and even to the extent where we sometimes have other terminologies that are used in psychology. One of them that is quite often known, what is referred to as Stockholm Syndrome, in which individuals who are being subjugated, sometimes abused, sometimes held captive, persons who are at the end of the stick receiving whatever form of injustice, they get to the point where they actually justify the actions of the individual who is in fact doing the wrong to them, and to the point where that attachment leads them to believe that this person is actually doing good to them, and it becomes, sometimes it's an issue of dependency. So, for instance, you would get, let's say, even in the case of slavery, for instance, the attitude, they are feeding us, so it can't be that bad, right? And you get into those types of states where you actually are forgetting about the actual injustice and looking at things that may be construed to be some form of goodwill towards the individual. And of course that is has now been characterized and has been called Stockholm Syndrome. And so we've known that, of course, this whole issue of mental slavery, as has been put by individuals such as Bob Marley, of course, in his very famous song, Redemption Song, making the point that, yes, in as much as we are many years on, many decades on, from over 100 years on, from nearly 200 years on, in fact, from that date of emancipation. The systems that still dominate, control, are still in some way very present, and we're still very present within our lifetime. All right. So, of course, many of our countries only, in fact, received their independence in the period of the 1970s, and we saw that period of decolonization. And some may say, even during that period of decolonization, there was, in fact, almost a push by the colonial power itself to effectively hand off responsibility of these former colonies, or these colonies, because in their minds they became too difficult or too expensive to in fact maintain. And so, of course, the world's economy had shifted tremendously since the time when these colonies were highly sought over, highly valued, right? In particular, of course, the commodity-driven plantocracy of the 17th and 18th and centuries in particular saw places like St. Lucia and Martinique and Saint-Domingue, now Haiti, being seen as being even more valuable than much larger territories in the north, like Canada. And of course, very famously, that trade which happened of getting St. Lucia and Martinique and Guadeloupe in exchange for all of Upper Canada. And so that happened back in 1763. So certainly we had moved on to that point by the 20th century, after the period of World War II. But that did not mean, however, that there were still not in place systems of wealth extraction still existing up to this day. And that, of course, continued and has in fact continued in very many parts of the world, where you still have a very strong colonial influence. Not too long ago, of course, we've seen the issues of land ownership in Africa. And although the African continent had been influenced tremendously by European powers, and of course with the extraction, particularly by way of the human resources of Africa during that period of the transatlantic slavery in particular. But it was only within the 19th century, and that very famous Berlin Conference, which happened in 1884 or thereabouts, where you actually saw this tremendous land grab and desire to, in fact, take control of the African continent. And this land grab did not simply end in the 1960s, when many of these African countries began to get their independence, gain their independence. And we even saw the issues at play in terms of some of the leaders of that era, and in some instances even to the point of being killed and assassinated. And we can think in particular perhaps of Patrice Lumumba of the Democratic Republic of Congo. And so the issue of land continued to be, and not just land, of course, land for agriculture, one, but also what's below the land, the mineral wealth, was still very much front and center in terms of the control of these resources. And of course, deals were made, expectations were created, and very famously, the situation of Zimbabwe comes to mind, where we saw individuals, and of course Zimbabwe being this what was known as Rhodesia or Southern Rhodesia, effectively a colony that was established by one man, Cecil Rhodes, and still though the influence there and the control of Europeans who came in and settled and took control of these properties is still an issue to this day, where you actually have, of course, the best lands for agriculture still not really owned legally by the majority of the population, and was really being owned by the vestiges of the colonial power in those countries. In Namibia, that very same issue is also being played out. And so in the case of Zimbabwe, you would recall there was that undertaking of the former colonial power, the British, to provide the resources to the state of Zimbabwe so that they could in fact purchase these lands, right, or to get them back into the hands of the state, so that the state could then engage in the redistribution of these lands. And of course, we know what happened there. It never really occurred. They never got the monies that they were promised to be able to do some of these actions. And one can say we saw what occurred there, and the pressures. Now, of course, this is not to say that some of these leaders themselves had their own political persuasions and machinations in this instance as well. But on the principle of it, we saw that there was clearly that undertaking, which certainly had not been met by the British government in this instance. And so the issues that are at play around the world are certainly still being influenced in large measure by what people have termed this issue of neocolonialism. So this is perhaps nothing new. This is nothing surprising. This is what we are faced with. But you know what? Very often you will come face to face with a desire for erasure, a desire for saying that it doesn't really exist. It's not a problem anymore. We're very good, and let's just get on with it, right? But of course, every now and then we do know that when it is convenient for some politicians, they in fact do seem to remember some of this reality that we are faced with, and will use it sometimes to their own benefit in the whole labeling of individuals. Now, no one is born racist. Nobody is born with some sort of a purely innate measure of having some sort of division. No, these are things that are taught. These are things that are in some way acquired due to upbringing, due to the cultural, social space that one lives in. And so to believe that it's actually somebody is born just because of their skin color in a certain way, no, that is not the case at all. And so it is interesting, of course, within that context, that this was precisely what was being suggested by Mr. Shastney himself in respect of former Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony. Now, I did make mention of his previous statements on this matter, which he made in the lead up to the June 6, 2016 general election at a press conference, where he was effectively saying that that Dr. Anthony had a massa mentality. But it wasn't just about that accusation, because you see, this is the difference here in issues. Somebody can characterize and judge or give some sort of an opinion on your actions, but based on just that, they're based on actions and utterances and a pattern of behavior, right? That is very, very, in my view, still very different as opposed to saying that somebody is somehow innately or born or has been given a massa mentality. And this, in fact, was one of those very statements which, in fact, had been made by Mr. Alan Chastney. But just so that we can remind ourselves of this matter, and not to really want to prolong it very much more, but it is important for the record that these things are put out there, because we have been certainly bombarded with some outcry over the past couple of days over what people may perceive to be a similar statement. Let's take in Mr. Alan Chastney, and this was a statement made, I think, back in May of 2016.
Another word for Kenyonomics is plantocracy economics, because it's only in the days of plantocracy that a landlord would impose taxes on the people who... Another word for Kenyonomics is plantocracy economics, because it's only in the days of plantocracy that a landlord would impose taxes on the people who are working the lands and not care about the conditions of their work or their living conditions, but was more concerned about his own living standards. But when one sees where the history and the heritage of Dr. Anthony, and that a massa mentality, and you can change your name, but you cannot change who you are.
But the fact of the matter is, the Barnard family were never ever engaged in slavery. They were not plantation owners during the period of slavery. They actually arrived in the Caribbean in the 1880s, and they came out of Sussex in the United Kingdom.
Right, and of course the final part is not so very critical in terms of the point being made, of course, and that is that statement of very much the very same thing, calling then Prime Minister and saying that he had a massa mentality. But not just saying that, which is one aspect, but also suggesting effectively that this was something innate of the individual, so that despite the fact that he took a decision to identify himself, right, with, and this is in the case of his mother, taking his mother's name, identifying in that way, that you cannot change who you are. And that I thought was a most remarkable and perhaps a very unfair statement to make in this instance about the issue of not being able to change who you are. And this is an important issue, because I think of late we have seen a lot of issues about identity, right? And it's very, a topical matter around the world, and if it's important, especially I suppose more so nowadays in terms of this whole debate on how you define who you are. And you hear about people saying, well, what are your pronouns? And this is very common, especially with the whole LGBTQI debate. But even in the matter when we speak about this whole social construct of race, of how you identify yourself, that's a major, major issue that we certainly have to still be grappling with up to a day like today. And so you hear that, for instance, in the case of St. Lucia, and even how we identified ourselves as we're a former British colony. Or we'll say that, we are a former French colony. Or we will say that we speak a French Creole. And within that mix, you also get quite a pushback sometimes. If somebody says, well, we are an African people, there tends to be a pushback from some people when you get that classification or that point being driven home. So identity, and especially in our reality, is certainly, yes, going to be a very mixed and perhaps contentious issue. But of course, it is something that is an important quest that is being looked at around the world right now, and certainly within the context of our islands and our history, with the extent of erasure that has existed over the years. It is a very important journey that we are actually on with respect to the matter of identity. We can look right now around the world, and you're seeing, thanks to technology and science and the dropping prices with respect to DNA testing, many people are taking that genealogical journey to get a better sense, well, we should say better, or a different sense, or a clearer sense, perhaps, of where you may very well find yourself genealogically. And it is something that, of course, lots of people are taking up, especially where those services are in fact available, whether through 23andMe and Identity.com and MyHeritage and all those various platforms that are providing their services. But it certainly is sometimes an eye-opener to lost family stories, lost heritage, and being able to connect certainly with a sense of identity. And that has been a major issue that we have, that you will find perhaps in the United States. Many people may be able to say, well, I could trace my family history back to 17 or whatever, or maybe I could trace it back further to somebody who came across on in the Plymouth colony, or from the 1600s, and they could trace it back to even further, or they were a descendant of wherever. In fact, very interestingly enough, one of those that kind of strikes out, especially when you look at many classifications under the U.S. Census, you will get people who will say, okay, well, they are German American, and they are Irish American, or they are Mexican American. But then when it comes to people from Africa, they all get lumped together as African American, regardless of what region or part or country in Africa you may be from. It all just becomes this one large grouping and classification that is sometimes placed. And it in some respects shows this challenge, of course, in terms of heritage and the ability to know one's heritage within this journey. So it is certainly a really important matter that has, I think, as a country, is certainly very relevant, given the fact, of course, that quite often many people, many St. Lucians, simply don't really have a sense as to maybe 3 generations back or 4 generations back, and that may be the extent of the awareness of their lineage or their identity. And so that, I think, is a really important journey that is helpful and can be helpful for anchoring ourselves in, especially in a state where we are seeing that people are not valuing human life. They're not valuing the individuals who are here. They're not valuing the fact that these individuals are people who are born of other people, who are born of other people who've had and who've done so much to survive, right, to this point where we are at right now. And it is very unfortunate that we are merely taking and cutting short life in the way that we're seeing, unfortunately, playing out in our island. So that journey is an important journey, if at least to ensure that we value ourselves, value the heritage and the blood, the very same blood that is being passed down to us at this time. And hopefully we shouldn't be spilling it on the streets. That's our dish of the day. When we come back, we'll take in our weather report and then take in some calls.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. Did all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Joux Grizzlies, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Oh, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island style. Whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style. Oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island style.
We have tiles and thin sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need is on the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Castries, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And National Postal on 1.1 is now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talamba. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between the east and east-southeast near 16 miles per hour or 20 kilometers per hour. The weather affected partly cloudy with a few showers. And there is an advisory in here which reads small craft operators and sea beavers are advised to exercise caution due to locally rough seas. Forecast for the Los Antilles, partly cloudy to occasionally cloudy skies with widely scattered showers over the Leeward Islands and northern Windward Islands. For the south, fair to partly cloudy with a few showers. And the weather summary, the Atlantic high pressure system will maintain moderate easterly to southeasterly winds and locally rough seas across the Eastern Caribbean region during the forecast period. Weak and stable conditions associated with a surface level trough because cloudiness and widely scattered showers mostly over the northern half of the Lesser Antilles during the next 24 hours. And this was the weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Back.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island style, whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style, oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island style.
We have tiles and thin sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need to sort the house out. For the best price and the latest style, take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality price, service choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. And of course, the number to call and tell us what's on your plate today, it is 4523046, 4523046, as well as WhatsApp. It is 724-0008. Again, 724-0008. And today, I believe there is, excuse me, a meeting of, I think it's probably the last meeting of the Parliament for this cycle before the House gets into a new legislative year, because as of next week we'll be seeing a new opening of Parliament, and that of course will involve the Governor General's speech from the throne, his throne speech being delivered, I think, next week, Tuesday morning, as part of that state opening as well. And later on in that afternoon, the Prime Minister of St. Lucia and Minister of Finance will be delivering his budget statement to the appropriation bill, as part of the appropriation bill for 2024-2025. So today's Parliament, perhaps you could say, is a bit of a, I suppose, a wrap-up of some loose ends that would probably have to be brought forward into the next parliamentary year come next week, Tuesday. Now, I did promise yesterday to share again that article which was published in The Guardian, the UK paper, and it was in fact entitled "Caribbean Leaders Need to Stop Taking It on the Chin and Unite to Defy Condescending West." That article, written by one Kenneth Mohammed, was published about 6 days ago in The Guardian, and it came amidst the fact that an interview with Guyana's President Irfan Ali went viral based on his response to what was seen as a very condescending interviewer in the person of Stephen Saka of the BBC during that article, asking about the Guyana and what is it going to do about the whole matter of climate change. Should they perhaps not benefit from the newfound oil wealth that they have, and should they what will they do about this whole issue of climate change? And as I said, this is a major debate ongoing around the world. whereas countries like the United Kingdom since the 1700s, 1800s have been mining coal for industrialization, and then went into the North Sea and Trinidad and Venezuela and took out lots and lots of oil for continued industrialization. Here's Guyana's opportunity, but hey, keep it in the ground, Guyana. Keep it under the sea. Let's take a call at this time so we can hear some views before we get more into this article. Good afternoon. Welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Good afternoon, Mr. George.
Hi, caller. How are you doing?
All right, boy. That name, boy, that's on that everybody lips, boy. All talk shows is George, boy.
Sometimes I
George a taller boy.
Sometimes I wish I was more controversial.
Yeah, we ain't want to call that George at all and move on, boy. Anyhow, I'm talking about, something I was watching there. I think it's some press conference the opposition party had. You hearing me?
Yes, I am. Go right ahead.
And then the various former ministers or what have you, members of the on the team there, they spoke of different issues, and I think it was Mr. Guy Joseph came to speak on the issue of crime, and of course he was trying to show that the current government administration is making a hash of it, and they're not doing what they should have been doing, and so on.
Mm.
And he cites, one of the main things he cites as what they should be doing is, I think, the dogs, what do you call them?
The canine unit? Yeah.
Right. Right. They will. Sounds good, not bad. Like, maybe if they feel that could help.
Well, I think, I don't know, because I remember I visited, was it Shed 6? Sometime around the Christmas or after Christmas or whatever. I can't remember exactly the date. And there were dogs. There was a dog going around. There was somebody who was holding the dog and going around inspecting.
I always thought they had that.
So I'm not sure. I'm hearing quite a lot that is being said. And it's almost given the impression that there is no inspections being done with the use of those trained dogs, and that is not correct. Maybe there should be perhaps more. I'm not saying definitely that's.
Well, yeah,
but
you see, what really troubled me, Mr. George, is that in his defense of the K9 unit, he said that it would only cost government, 500,000 or something like that a year.
Okay.
To have that unit in place, the dogs trained and train them and, take care of them, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the government chose to purchase vehicles instead. And free vehicles cost the same amount or even more. You understand? So he's playing vehicles.
Either or.
Yeah, he's playing vehicles against his defense. And he goes on to say that the dogs are preemptive, they could prevent, but vehicles is after the fact. But I'm saying to me,
the vehicles can be preemptive as well.
Also,
yes, certainly.
If you have a frequent patrol,
exactly,
vis-a-vis no patrol in the community,
right?
Eh?
Oh, certainly,
because
certainly.
There are some communities you will have people walking around them.
Mm-hmm.
They're too big for that.
Precisely.
And he makes that statement there. Unruffled, and he goes on with this smoke on his face, and, that is after. You need vehicles after, and you don't need them before. And he goes on to say, that these people should invest more in the K9 unit So it's like either that or that. But I'm saying, but to me they're supposed to complement each other, eh, Alex?
Certainly. I mean, you can't even.
And I'm saying, well, what's wrong with the logic? I mean, these guys don't think out what they're saying before. I mean, you're entitled to criticize, but when you come and say, and that is what you have to offer.
But I don't know if you've. I'm not sure how much you've been following, because that has been the single issue and recommendation that has been put forward by the United Workers' Party. I said that issue of the K9 unit has been repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated.
All out to defend it and saying, why should we buy vehicles before the K9?
And I have no issue you saying, okay, you know what, the government needs to spend more money on the K9 unit, expand the K9 unit.
An issue with that, yeah.
But then to say that you should that the government is investing, that's
unit against things, so people see. People will jump on that, Undiscerning people, I would think. Because I think, people must...
I'm pretty certain that I'm sure if we ask right now out there are people who will be telling you that they are still calling police stations, making reports, asking for police assistance, and quite possibly the police are saying, well, we don't have the vehicle is out already, so you'll have to wait a while, right? That's still a problem.
I mean,
there are a number of units that still don't have the kind of resources that you have.
The problem is there is a common factor. It's a common factor if you add other things. Then so be it. You improve your K9 capability. But I mean, don't play one against the other. And is that a solution? You know what I'm saying? And I get to realize that. In terms of solutions, they're coming from there. The solutions are coming from there. Because all people doing is saying what is wrong, and to me, they're not offering any viable and feasible solutions to the serious the serious problems we face. Because, what they tackle is crime, that's the whipping boy. Crime, inflation, and public debt. And these are issues, colleagues, I keep saying that government could definitely, probably, help ease a little. But there's no silver bullet, my brother.
Mm-hmm.
These things are essentially exogenous in their nature. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I mean, you spoke about inflation, for instance, which is an interesting one.
Yes.
Because, I mean, this is a worldwide, we're seeing the impact of inflation. I'm not saying that, obviously, the reality for the individual who has to go to the supermarket is different.
All over the place.
But
all over
that is
the prices are being affected all over the world because of the current situation, all those wars and all kind of things that are going on. And then people keep saying as if, the government could keep it at a tolerable level.
But what is funny is that when there was a statement...
we hear about the gun,
yeah,
the gun trafficking all over the world. Gun trafficking is the most viable business, right now on earth. All the time they're telling us is drugs, it was guns,
Well,
you know that, eh?
It looks so.
And it still is guns. So we're talking about big business.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the impact reports talk about these things. We talk nowadays. They don't have big businesses.
Well,
they have big gun dealers with business.
Well, let's put it this way too, caller. Let's put it this way too. The guns that are coming into St. Lucia, those are the small guns, right?
Yes.
The real big guns we have is the business of many countries around the world, including the United States of America. I mean, and their relationship with Israel, right? That's where the big guns are going, and to many other places. And these are legal trades.
And public debt. I don't see how you could move forward if you go borrow money. These people don't understand economics, how it working. How could I mean, maybe here and there you might get an arrangement of
concessionary loans, lower rates,
public sector participation, and so on, private sector, whatever. Collaborations between public and private.
Mm-hmm.
You will get that, but generally speaking, the money from the Saudis is grants.
No, in the main, it's a loan. It's a loan.
All these money.
It's a low interest loan.
All these monies from CDB are grants.
No, the majority of the money from CDB they will be loans as well.
The money from banks and the local banks is grants.
Well, banks are not in the business of giving away money.
I mean, really.
So
the whole current existence of society now is premised on debt.
Yeah.
So what? Who? Is there a party somewhere in a little country, 180,000 people, that will come with something that the whole world will be able to replicate and say, okay, that's what we should do, man, to get rid of these problems, these bugs, crime, inflation, and public debt.
You see, these will all be issues. Forever will always be issues, especially in a state like ours, where we don't have control over many of these levers. But I think the conversation needs to be, where are we? What are the metrics? What is the target? What should we be?
You see, as far as I'm concerned, I think a growing number of people are becoming aware that there's no silver bullet for these problems. I think any government that, wants to vindicate itself or wants to get the favor of the people, they should work hard at bringing the crew, meaning the members of the party in the government, their government, and public servants, making them understand that we expect a higher form of governance. We expect better governance. So whatever little leverage we have in this global dynamic, that in this world, try and optimize what you could script from your people. In other words, you cannot afford to have corruption, coco macaque. You cannot afford to have don't have
waste. Yeah.
Value for money.
Right.
How you execute your projects. These things, efficiency.
Right.
Effectiveness. These are what you tighten up. And if you could do these things good, my brother, you'd have done your best. To target the vulnerable. Always give them a little, shall we say, a little something. Try and help them. Especially, there are people from COVID. COVID devastated up to now, they can't recuperate.
And they can't recuperate, yeah.
Yeah, you target these people.
Well, there's been that program going on, so...
There are people who've been trying to get jobs, my brother. And in vain, and and the frustrated, they ain't looking for anymore. And they have people who work in, and they cannot make ends meet. You understand? And yet still you expect these people to live healthy lifestyle. Well, the least you could do as a government is assist them. There are people, even though colleagues, you could pitch that thing how reasonably you want it, where you want it. The minimum wage.
Right.
These people still will not be able to service a mortgage,
So what does that mean, though, in terms of the role of government then with respect to housing?
Well,
You
that's
see-
where I see you optimize
Okay.
your CIP and your NIC.
Exactly.
You understand?
Exactly. Because
This
the reality,
must take the lead
that is right.
know,
Because the
and-
reality, and
to
you know,
deal with truly low-cost housing.
I mean, some people look at what Roosevelt Skerritt has done in Dominica in that
Absolutely,
regard.
and there is an example.
But that is the reality is
That is the way
that
to go.
there will be some people who will never be able to afford a decent
Yes.
home, and so
and
therefore
they're
the state.
working.
And they yes, with their salaries, and I mean, even if it's two persons coming together and support, they would just simply not be able to.
Yeah, we have to see about this.
And so that's a very critical
Yeah.
point that you're making. Yes.
So, and that's how I look at it. And to me, and policy, the philosophy of these governments, we have to be pragmatic in any case when it comes to, international, policy.
Well,
Who you deal with, is according to,
I see.
you have to wiggle your way through.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so, I mean, that'll be common to any party.
Yes.
This thing's going to be common. But let's see how good administrators we are and how humble we are, how we could love our people, given the constraints as best as we can still. But there are some things that don't change in a hurry. We could keep them, at bay for a little while, the crime, the thing. We could cushion these things.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well said, caller. Thanks very much for
Yes,
that
my
contribution, and have a good one. Now, unfortunately, I'm looking at the time, and I don't know whether we'll be able to squeeze in another call because we're already at after 2 at this point. We will get back, as I promised, to that article. It is very important, and also another very interesting video to tease your minds. But we have enough time, hopefully, during the course of the week to be able to touch on some of those matters. But of course, thanks very much for the contributions and those in the Facebook chat as well. We'll be back again tomorrow, God willing, for another program. Hope you can join us for that. Take care.